Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How's the food?
Good.
So good, right? My name is Heather. I'm the artistic director at Vines. Welcome to the Vines Den and the LANDBACK Rewind Gallery Show. What's around you is bits and pieces of people's work who we've been in relationship with or supporting throughout the past 5 to 6 years. And yeah, there's a lot of beautiful people's stuff in here, so I hope that you've enjoyed looking around and lots of memories and stories. Today's conversation is stories of reoccupation, and we're really lucky to be with these 3 awesome people, Kwitsel, Miranda, and Badger, who all have reoccupied their land in various ways at various times throughout their life. So yeah, I'm gonna let them introduce themselves and take it away. Just to start, if you can introduce who you are and a memory or a story of a time of reoccupation in your territory that kind of shaped who you are and why you do what you do.
I'll just say this, that after speaking with so many lawyers, one of the last lawyers I spoke to said, you should actually make a movie script instead of trying to go through the courts. You'll probably gain more. And so I am going through the courts. Kwitsel, Tatel, Telskwe, been on the front line since I was in my great-grandma's time. And the same for everyone in this room, that we are all descendants of people who really worked hard to bring us into the world. And I ask each of you to join our forces from wherever you are. 1 to 10, you can think of things to do to protect water, air, and soil. Kwitsel, Tatel, Telskwe, Patricia Kelly, registered Indian to 579, Indian Reserve out in the valley, but I was kicked off in the year 2000. And so, quick 2 stories. Got kicked out of the federal court in 2022 for calling Kathleen Ring a judge, prothonotary, a white trash bitch. And now I have a new application, and I said sorry. But she still kicked me out. Her and the Department of Justice, I don't know how many so-called, call them department fatheads. Chase Blair was in file T80921, and now I have a new file number T172124. And so it means writing a lot of papers, researching the rules of the court, the Act, the Federal Court Act, the Constitution Act of 1982, the Constitution Act of 1867, and the Royal Proclamation of 1763. These are articles, especially the Royal Proclamation of 1763, is the founding document of so-called North America. And when the 7 Years' War was over, the Republicans, meaning half of the British Act, were fighting over our territories, did not want to be tied to the crown of England. They wanted to be sovereign. And so the Royal Proclamation recognizes North American Indians as sovereign. And it's only we that can exercise that on our own behalf by being seen, being heard, doing things like this, challenging people in this room to make waves in your little family and community about the constitutions, about the proclamation, about water, about air, about soil, because we're all impacted together. There's no one race, black, brown, red, yellow. We are in this together. And even though we have the giant south of us, we won't mention his name, but it's a big fat T, really for trouble. And that's more reason to give force and effect to the rules of law that were created by the British North America Act of 1867 and the Royal Proclamation of 1763. These are very important documents to our people, but they're not given force and effect, and let alone if they're found in Section 25 of Canada's new Constitution Act of 1982. It would be very, very difficult for anyone to find it because it's tucked into Section 25. But it's the Royal Proclamation of 1763, which is our greatest authority given proper interpretation. And so 2 stories about that I would tell the Chief Judge of British Columbia, Thomas Crabtree. On my left shoulder is my umbilical cord and tie to the land prior to contact. And my sovereignty lies with that fact in your language and law. And then on my right shoulder is your responsibility to give force and effect to those rules and regulations that protect us. The courts exhausted our people in Haida Taku, Delgamu, Niska. My cases, all those other cases were funded. Mine have never been funded. And that's what I'm going after right now. The sick part of it is the evidence of all of Turtle Island being ours is we're now on these postage stamp size pieces of land in comparison to what we had prior to contact. And now some of us, namely over 20 people from the reserve that I'm registered to, that I found, and I've been writing affidavits, getting their stories, turning them into affidavits, then the things called notice of motion, and I was tripped up, I think 3 times because I'm not a lawyer, but there's this thing called a style of cause. That's why I got kicked out of T80921 and the other thing I told you about. And then 1721, the courts have been training me, like you gotta do it this way, you gotta do it that way. Now that I've got it, they're saying, no more papers, you're not allowed to write. And I foolishly made a mistake in my hurriedness. I went to Alert Bay to celebrate my surrogate mom and her birthday, Vera Newman. And so I was crunching time doing court activity to the last minute, and then I was going to run to the fair, that kind of thing. And so the life and the day of writing, then getting the application into the courts, accepted, date stamped, and I do the little happy dance if they give me a date stamp, because that's a hard frickin' thing to meet the bar and in the right jurisdiction. And you know, they're saying, oh, all these cases that you're talking about happened in other courts. That's what they're saying to me in the courts right now. And I'm like, well, I'm in the right jurisdiction to correct that. And there's no way that lower courts, in accordance to BNA Act 1867, Section 109, there's a clear line between federal and provincial jurisdictions. And so I'm holding the court accountable, and they don't like seeing me coming. the judge and the Department of Justice, they really don't like seeing me coming because I'm not a lawyer and I can, say things much more layman and showing restraint more than ever. In another respect with the Crown fighting over water through pipelines in Kinder Morgan. Two things. Francis Mahon, a lawyer who was defending the people, was up against Kinder Morgan's 10 lawyers. There were 3 people, lawyers for the people, and won't say much more, but Frances, I made contact with her. We wrote an affidavit and we managed to kick Kinder Morgan out of the game. But the problem is, I didn't anticipate this thing called the Foreign Investment Protection Agreement, done in 2008 by the then Prime Minister Harper. And that piece, that legislation written in China was done doing business, saying we will protect you against anybody who tries to interfere with you. That's what it means. And among our Secwepemc sisters and up and down our waterways, we had enough force and made enough waves. Water was on our side, and Kinder Morgan packed its bags, and no one lined up to buy Kinder Morgan. So, of course, Canada had to back its own Foreign Investment Protection Agreement, FIPA, and had to purchase it. At that time, it was worth $4.5 billion in 2018, May. Who knows the value of the pipeline now? It's over 50 billion. I think it's 54.2 billion. The same pipeline that all of us worked together to defeat. And so the work is yet to be done. I believe that our sacred, meaning however you believe beyond your physical self, that we need prayers for each other and for our land and waters and air and soil every single day. And when you get up in the morning, you just say a quick prayer that our people, the people will rise up. It is we, the Indigenous people of the world, that the United Nations and COP 24, 25, 26, 27, year after year around the world, they're saying it's we, the Indigenous people, that must lead the way to protect one little third of our planet's Earth by 2030. That's what came out of the last COP that I looked into. And they created this thing called 20 by 30, in short, meaning that we're gonna, it's 20% of Mother Earth's surface by 2030. That's what it means. And so, I can look to the macro level. Our blood in this room stretches the world over. That means our ancestors tie us together in that power, and that we need to look to that together beyond our space and place, so that we can win against these dirty bastards trying to create Canada into a so-called 51st state and its garbage dump. And I read into this social media very little as I can, but that is what I get out of looking at the picture going on with the global elites. I wish that there was no way that a politician could be purchased, and that donations to a politician would stop altogether, and that they would be funded by per capita, however many people are in your region that is registered, that's the money that you get, and that's it. The elite corporate punishment that we are all facing right here, right now, is so degrading and so disempowering. I wish that the world's richest man would get the fuck off of Coast Salish territory like that. And so I believe the last thing I want to talk about with the pipelines, and I don't want to scare you, but the file number given to my person at the BC Supreme Court is KKK-1.
Wow.
And I was shocked when I saw that. My young friend Debbie Hay took a picture of the file. So somewhere on record we have that. And if you ever go to the BC Supreme Court and ask for file KKK-1, you know it's me that they are talking about. So that's the threat that they see me as, but really I'm scapegoated with the terminology twisted. The legal system twists its legal language to wrangle our people of color disproportionately in court and then into jail, like we're a machine, you know, to be, you know, ground up into. We need to stand up and protect each other and account for each other. The thing that happened with Kinder Morgan when I was on the mountain, people called on me as a leader because I was the eldest and I was the only Coast Salish person sometimes on the mountain. And I slept by the sacred fire. I never left that fire. As soon as I lit it, I never left it. And so it was tended to 24 hours a day. When the people in Burnaby got the support of Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and the 3 MST here, apparently, that's what gave the city of Burnaby authority to write an injunction with my name on it to stay the F off of so-called Burnaby Mountain and my children. So these are things that we're up against. One of the last moves that happened though was pretty powerful. I actually sang your family song, and there were 8 RCMP officers that guarded the bylaw officer to post eviction notices based on the judge's injunction. And the judge that they used, they pulled him out of retirement. So I was woken up by one of my Camp Cloud Kinder Morgan surveillance family members saying, Kwitsel, the police are here. And so I named myself as a, what do you call it when you oversee a court case? Monitor. I told the judge that I'm the monitor for our side. So when the RCMP got there, they knew that they weren't allowed to be near our camp because the way I wrote my injunction against them is the judge agreed with me. And so they stood on the side of the road, like as far away from the pavement as they could, all 8 officers. And then I hollered at them to go home, get lost, F off. And I was shouting that. And then I followed the person that was putting the eviction signs up, and I ripped them down and I crumpled them up and I threw it down. And of course, the officers were moving along the edges of the roads up there. Underhill and I forget the other name of the road, but so I ended up, after the person that put his injunctions or evictions up walked away, that 8 officers lined up behind that bylaw officer, and they were lockstep and putting their hand up like that and really stomping their left feet. And then I decided, well, I'm the only one here. I'm going to sing our Secwepemc song, a very, very powerful song. And maybe we can sing it before the end of today. But I walked down singing this song, and Underhill is a long road. And I was walking those bastards out of Camp Cloud Kinder Morgan surveillance post one step at a time, within about 5 arm lengths. And I'm just singing as loud as I can. And maybe that quarter-mile walk down, one of the officers stepped out and turned around, put his hands on his gun. And then there was a median on the side of the road, and I jumped up on it, and I just stopped, and I just kept singing from where he stepped out. I just stepped up onto this median and just kept singing. Like, my song is more powerful than your guns. My voice is more powerful than your 8 men, big powerful men with their guns walking down the road. And I just told them off in so many ways. A single woman against 9 men. And none of the other people in the camp joined in because it was that violent. There was a lot of violence already between the officers, the bylaw officers, some assholes in the public. I could go on for a long time because there's creeps out from Calgary that threaten to buy me a bag of cement and a bucket. No one would find me if they put me in one of those tailings ponds. I get those information on social media. I decided I'm not going to social media to be put into fear. And, 3 instances since 2018 I've just about been killed. But I'm still here. It takes a lot of effort. I'm standing with our sisters here, and I just want to thank you for listening and carry on doing what you can. And I ask you to witness. Haciendo ya cosa.
Thank you all for coming out and supporting and hearing our stories. And it takes a lot of courage to leave within our communities to come out and just to come share a meal even, and come out and say hi to everybody, see all our friends, and just to re-energize each other, gathering that strength, and thank you for the territory and the welcoming and the song, and having created the space and all the artwork that it takes for everything in here that goes on within Vines. And there's so many stories in just the artwork alone, the pictures, the images that you see. We have the blanket here. That was a 10 by 10 inch squares that people mailed in from all over. And that was to stop the pipeline, bring awareness to water. And it's pillared by 4 rose bush on the 4 corners for protection. and so many people and even children added to that. And so to hear that we're doing a good job and that we're doing what we need to do to protect clean water and standing up for the land, and you know, just to see that come into fruition through the images and the pictures, and even down to the artwork from the children and the youth, you know, them coming together and showing us the way, and always in that protecting, loving, caring way that they protect us. You know, it's not easy living, say, on the front lines or reigniting a sacred fire, or you know, just even being in our own communities. Sometimes it's really hard for us, and we have trials and tribulations that we fall victim to, systemic issues of violence, lateral violence, and so forth. There's so many, you know, housing is the #1 issue. There's so many things that we have to find a solution if we speak for justice for our children, and we want a better future for our children, for the clean water, and we'll speak to housing, education, the children, like we'll bring awareness to our cause. And I'm so grateful for the space of Vines, of opening that up, and with artisans and music and the youth that come out, and wouldn't I say they're really youth anymore?
They're not, they're getting old.
Yeah, they're getting older, so.
We have some new ones.
They're still young to me.
You guys are still young.
Yeah, they're still. So, they're really young to me, because I'm just like, oh, they're all my kids' age, you know, coming out and working on doing the flooring and putting insulation in, like things that people, you know, we need help with in our community. And one of them was building a ceremony house, and that came by the help and support of like literally everybody I know. Like, we built this, you know, 15 by 20 structure so we could have ayahuasca ceremony, so we could have a peyote ceremony if we need. You know, we have a sweat lodge there. We have anything to do with healing. We have created the space for that, and it was through all of the help and the work, and you know, through music and through arts, and it's so many things of how we can make our movement move. And when we think about how do you make a movement move, we keep going. We just, over these trials and tribulations and finding solutions to some of these things that we have going on within our own nation, our own community, our own houses. Like, we find ways of how we could help each other out. And the best way, you know, is through food, through having our guests and people hosting communities, and so many things of you know, like movement. Movement is like food and friends, and it doesn't just stop there. It's like everybody, right? Like clothing. There's like just so many things that we could think of, like to help us, and to speak a little bit on the work that I do. Again, my name is Miranda. I'm on the poster, but it's like in case you, my English name, but Cha'il's my Indian name. It means little fawn. But in case I forgot to even mention my English name, but my name is Miranda, and I have 6 kids, and I have a partner who lives in Secwepemc territory, and have a large family. I'm so here to also support my sister, who is a tattoo artist, and Goa. And so I love following my sister's work. She saves lives, you know. It really does help. Wherever we go, she's helping a youth, you know, getting into learning how to do tattoos. And again, it's the artwork, right? It's like, comes in many forms. And when we think of what that looks like within our traditional space of Secwepemc territory, I could be like, okay, we have to fill a need. We'll find something to help that. So we build houses. like we just finished building our brother's house like probably about 2.5 months ago, and it's a 20 by 20 space. Like he actually needed a place to live and to stay, and by the generous donations of everybody in the work. And you know, I'm not an experienced builder, but I can cook soup, like, but you know, I do flooring and I do that kind of stuff, but it's not like, you know, I'm not building the house, like, my brother's doing that, but I cook soup, so I clean the camp and do the dishes, that's the same thing. So, you know, it all goes into the same, like, you feel like where you feel you need to fill that space, and by you showing up, you're filling that space. You're filling the chairs, you're filling the hearts, you're filling, you know, it's just like this. It's always in reciprocation, right? So, like when I think of it, if I'm going to go set a sacred fire, it's not just me setting a sacred fire. I have to get our dad over and be like, "Can you firewood?" And, you know, my son's going to go and set the sacred fire, then he'll set the sacred fire. And we've done that like time and time again. We've done that for the 215 children that were found at the residential school. We had a 10-day sacred fire. And Dad lit that, and we stayed in her testimony for 10 days of the impacts that this intergenerational trauma has occurred to our people within the territory, not just our territory, but the neighboring peoples, and it's just so devastating that we have to hear that, but then we still also have to keep moving forward for our children. Like even at that sacred fire, we had a graduation honoring. We had a wedding there. like these are the things. Like these are resilience, you know. And I hear the stories from the elders when they say, We married and had children with men that were broken to sustain our nation. And I really felt that. I really heard that, because at that time, it was like, we hear the stories, but we also have children that with the men that are broken to continue on our said nations. You know, the person was from Statland Territory, and the elder, I still remember saying that. And I was like, I felt that, because we are still going through generational trauma. I'm like first impacted, non-impacted by being at a residential school. And our siblings, the same thing and within our household. Our dad went, our mom didn't go, but our dad went. And so those are the types of things that we're having to be like, okay, as within the nation, hearing the stories, having the sacred fire, and then how do you set a sacred fire? And then having Dad and the elders and my son and other people participate into how these are still going on within different, I would say not occupations, but homelands, at the home fronts, you know, at the houses. Because when you go to Shittigath and you hear Uncle Hubie say, like, you're welcome to my home. When you come, it's not occupation. We're not at a camp. You're in my house. Like, and so make yourself a home, you know, like set your tent, have some food, all of those things, same thing. Sacred fire is all the same that way, and Ulush the same way, like greetings and everything, food, you know, music, laughter. Like when we went up to go help out with the bathhouse in Ulush, it was like fun. Like just building a bathhouse and, you know, being with my son, and he was in there and building that structure, and then we laughed for like maybe 2 hours at the fire, like Jazz was talking about hot dogs and not in that way, but it was funny along those lines, and you know where that could go. But anyways, Jazz isn't here, but so I'm not here right now, but yes, Jazz is here. So yes, all of those things. So 2 hours of that, and you know, and then you know, air bending and all kinds of other stuff at the fire. It was just 2 hours of fun, anyways. But that's what it is. It's like we still continue our lives and having fun where we can find that, and yeah, like it's not always just like, okay, we are under threat. Like, number one, when you go to the camps and like we're like at this heightened experience of like the cops are just there whenever, you know, and just like people terrorizing down the road, and there was a party just down the road, and you know, like there's like all of these things going on, and camp is still living life, and the house and that we built is still life, you know, it's like our homes, and so it's like, yeah, like those things are still going on around us. And so those are the, you know, when we talk about occupations of our lands, or being within the territory, or our homelands, and those are still things that we're living through, you know, like some of those are lived experiences. And so a lot of, you know, even the pictures are, a lot of us at court, you know, some of the pictures up are, we spent 3.5 years in court, like Heather, you know, my sister, Laura, like there was a number of us that had been arrested on fighting the pipeline and saying no. And I was asked a question maybe about a year ago, and the person was very, you know, kind of like condescending or rude, and said, well, what did that accomplish? And I was just like, it accomplished a lot. Like, we did a lot. We did a lot of healing work. We did a lot of bonding. It brought all of our whole nation together. And so many people said no. Our elders group said no. Our youth group said no to this pipeline. Like, it brought about awareness. And as long as we keep saying that, Mother Earth heard us. The water heard us, the trees heard us, singing, even if we were the only ones at the court steps, singing a song, Mother Earth still heard us. So it was, we're never alone, we have our ancestors. And so yeah, those are some of the bigger struggles and things that we had gone through for 3.5 years of, you know, fundraising and trying to bring awareness. We self-represented ourselves, which is a really hard thing to do, as Kwitsel knows. But it is very hard to go up against a billion-dollar corporation and say no to a pipeline and still be able to be a human after, and still have human emotions, and still be able to thrive, and, you know, still within the territory that we still have fish going through the river. And that we're grateful every day, and that we have ceremony. Like, we still having all the same ceremonies, the water ceremonies, the canoe journey, the pipe ceremonies, the peyote, like every kind of ceremony, we just about did all of that. Like the women's ceremony, the water ceremony, it's like, you name it, it was done, because it was like all of these. I did a haircutting ceremony that I got arrested at. My sister, you know, it's like literally they drew a line right here. I was standing behind this made up, fucked up line, and my sister's right here, and we're doing a haircutting ceremony, and I get arrested. That's the idiocracy that we're facing. It's like, okay, she, yeah.
She just made up a new word, idiocracy.
Oh, sorry, I don't even know if that's real or not, but if not, it's okay. Okay, it's okay. Okay. Don't mind me. I'm from the rest. This is how we talk. Okay. Anyways. But that's literally what we're facing. Like, it's like this. You know, in the video you can see the guy goes over and he's spraying a line right by my toes, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? This is my land? Like, this is where I grew up, this is where I live. And so I was like, oh my God, like this is craziness. Like, and they didn't have any kind of paperwork, they couldn't show the court injunction even existed. And this is all Trans Mountain, right? So it's like, this billion-dollar corporation is just making up things as they go, and arresting people as they go, and this is how they treat Indigenous people. And we still, even then, Fitzpatrick, we still had to say we still existed when she said that there was no children found at the residential school, that there was no murders that were found at there was no children. There was, like, it was this whole, yeah, it was like a whole portion that was, we had to prove that okay, I'm standing in front of you and I still exist. Like that's literally how it felt, like you don't exist in their eyes and in the court's eyes and in, Trans Mountains, it was like, all of these things were just the exchange, of what was going on literally in the back of everything was that Canada bought a pipeline and that Canada owned and there's like no jurisdiction to all of that portion, that they don't have, they assume that they have jurisdiction, but they actually don't have any jurisdiction. And so, yes, excuse me, it is very much so a large issue. And so to uncover that and be like, okay, Canada is the issue, Canada and the acts of genocide are the issue. Like those are things that are going on. Canada is, the portion of MMIW is all from Canada. They're the ones issuing the licenses for mining, the highway, the Trans Mountain, the mining, the everything. So Canada is the actual issue. It's their issue of having murder of missing Indigenous women and that not being brought forward. And that the people still have to be like, this is the issue on a daily. Like it's like, we can go about our day and have to still be like, Canada is the actual cause for literally everything. Because they're giving the mining licenses and they're permitting Trans Mountain to go within our territory of a walkway trail that our Indigenous women cross every day. That the workers of man camps are 300, 600 men rolling deep in there. And we're walking by there on a daily. And that's the cause of a lot of the Indigenous issues is MMIW. It is that those same people who are signing those deals and agreements are the same ones that are relocating us out of our own homes and BCing us out of our own homes so that they can steal the land from us. So Canada is the actual problem. And when it comes down to the decimation, they know exactly how. They have a handbook guide, it's called MMIW Inquiry of how to kill an Indian. It's over 900-page document filed in the court of law of how to kill an Indian. How to get away with murder. How they can do those said crimes to Indigenous people and how you can get away with it. And that's the fucking truth of it. Like that's the real of everything. And when you're looking at the whole over scope of everything and you're seeing Canada's permitting Trans Mountain, Canada's giving the oil license permits and investors and the bankers, everything is all in that. And so yeah, when we say, okay, we're occupying our land and LANDBACK and we're like, that's literally what we have to do. We're on our lands to make that an issue, make it a point, and be present, and yeah, some of it is for our housing, some of that is because we don't have housing and all of those things, so we're pushing that line of like, this is the issue. And it will continuously be that because they're not wanting to fix the problem. So that's the occupation when it comes to, when we think about how do we go about that, and then taking care of oneself and taking care of our family and taking care of our kids and how do we go about that and healing and ceremony, drumming, singing, music, like it goes all back to that reciprocation again. Because if we didn't have spaces that were created that were safe, like I probably wouldn't come because it wasn't safe, I would be like, I'm okay, And so creating safe spaces like here and Ulush and Shutagaz and other spaces where you can go and, help out within community and helping out on the home front and all of that. It's a big thing, showing up and being authentic and helping where you can and your capabilities and You know, like even just coming over, we did flooring once, and we did insulation and roofing. Like we did like, you fit in where you can for the work that we're going to be doing, you know. Because I for one, I don't know how to do a lot of the things, but I'm a fast learner. I'll learn how to do those things. So, you know, and the other thing was, you know, with that is like seeds and food. So, you know, planting gardens, having the salmon, you know, we would come down to Kwitsel's family and get fresh fish and bring it home and come over. You know, we're just like all this interchange of food and how we're interrelated and how we do that, right? Like how do we keep those, all of those things going, right? Like food and preservation and just keeping all of those relationships going. And you know, I'd go down to Kwitsel's territory and we would just like load up on like 300 fish, you know, and go home, fresh fish, and go home, and you know, come to Statland territory, get like 100 fish, and you know, all these different times where we're all working all together. You know, it's like, it's amazing because the waterways are roadways, you know, and so the fish are very vital to us. That's why, you know, like a lot of our postering and everything was for our salmon, and still is. You know, we still do a lot of work around that. And so there's so many things. You know, we do arts builds for that. We did like banner making one time, and you know, it's just all of these different things. And I think that the biggest barrier for me was my own mind. My own mind to be like, oh, you're like 47, going to be on the front lines, like oh, okay. But that was like, that's literally me, because I was told so many times by different people, that's all you're going to do. Like, that's all you're going to be. Are you still doing that? Like, like that's literally how, in my own mind, I was like, oh my God, like, oh, okay, like, it is, yeah, okay, I'm still going to be doing that. That's who I am. I'm still going to create art. I'm still going to make music. I'm still going to, yeah. But it was like, this is where it was at, you know. And with the medicines of peyote and ayahuasca and, you know, all the different medicines that I've had in my life, and you know, and even CBD helping me, and Phoenix Tears with cancer, and all of these different things that have helped me, medicines that have helped me get me to where I am right now. And so I really, those were my biggest barrier, was my own mind, because it was stopping me from saying, okay, I'm going to go, I'm going to support, I'm going to help, like I'm going to lead the people in a good way. And I'd be like, oh no, like, you know, it was always like a no kind of thing, where I was just like, I felt like I wasn't worthy enough. I wasn't, you know, old enough to do those. And one of my cousins said, well, we're the elders now, because we had lost a whole bunch of elders in 1 year of COVID. Like in 1 year, I wouldn't really say COVID, it was the vaccinations. Because they all were vaccinated and they all passed away within 1 year, and we were still doing ceremony. We were still, all throughout that pandemic, we were still hosting within our community. We had a salmon feast, we had a concert, like we still were doing things, because our elders said, it isn't COVID, it's the vaccination that was harming us. And so in that belief that they were like telling us that that's what was going on, we lost a lot of elders. And so my cousin was saying, we are now the elders. Even though we're young, they're gone now. All their teachings were handed down to us, so we have to continue that on. And so when I would get up in a space and no one else, in a whole room, our elder would get up and say, well, what are you going to do about it? About the highway, about the mining, about the pipeline? Like, what are you going to do about it? Like, literally question your existence of what you're going to actually do about it. And then I would just be like, okay, I have to do something. And so that was my form of like, I'm going to stop the highway. I'm going to stop the fucking pipeline. I'm going to stop the mining going on you know, all of these different things that were the elders pushing and saying and doing and showing by example. And so that was like how to keep carrying on and being that person to fill those chairs, to fill those seats and fill the, you know, all of those spaces. And so it was really when the elder had questioned us in large group and said, what are you going to do about it? Like, okay, and I stood up and I said, I'm going to stop it, whatever it was. And so that's how it really starts, is like, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Repercussions after. Sorry to say, I'm serious about that. You don't give an F after, you don't, because you don't know. If you don't have rent to pay, you're in fucking jail, so. I'm serious, I don't know. That's my logic of thinking. Yeah, and I get some rest. So, like, Laura's my bunkie, so. I actually slept, so.
You're busy protecting yourself.
Yeah.
Every which way.
Yes, sovereignty at every level. So, you know, those are the things that happen. So, it was really, you know, eye-opener. I did really think about repercussions after, because you're thinking of the future, so you're not thinking about, oh shit, I'm doing 3.5 years in the court system, and oh shit, I'm in jail now. Like, it's like, you don't think of those things, you think of the future and what you're doing. You think of it, then, you know, you don't think of it as these things are going on to you. And you know that it's wrong, so you have to say something. And so that's where that whole, you know, portion of saying no and being, you know, being able to you know, stand up and say no when there's injustices going on. And so, yeah, I really didn't think a lot of everything until after. And that was not my only time. There's like many a times where I had been arrested. There's many a times where I have been in courts, and that, believe me, that's the least of your problems, kind of thing. Because, you know, when I live every day on, you know, not just in my reserve, I mean, just living, there's a lot of things going on. So it is part of life. And so yeah, repercussions after, and thinking about all of those things later. What the occupation was, you know, we had many of times where we had, like, my dad had left one of our secret fires, and he had gone to go and use the phone, and he had left, and all of a sudden there's like 3 ambulance, 3 fire trucks, like 50 RCMP, 50, you know, CP rail cops, and they all show up, and they're all there, and I'm just there with a secret fire. I didn't even have a phone, because my dad was going to go find a phone to call and say, hey, like, you know, and we have Jeffrey, who's going to be in the video, we're going to see in a bit, and he was doing his secret fast, and me and my dad were just in charge of doing the secret fire for Jeffrey, and then all of a sudden, there's all of these people here, and I was just like, how the hell am I going to handle this? Like, I'm just one person, and I put tobacco in the fire, I gave the offerings, and now I'm just standing up against all these people who are like, what are you doing here? Oh, you're outside of the bylaw, you know, they're just like making up all this stuff. We have to put your fire out with a hose, and it's like, they're ready to douse me and the fire out. And I'm just saying no, like, this is, you know, Secwepemc territory, and if I didn't know who I was, or maybe even this is how they actually treat people everywhere, that they actually go in and displace people and all of those things. And I was just like, I have to say something, and no, just F off, you know. And so it was like a big thing, and I explained to them a sacred fire is this, and it's actually under one of their sections and codes, and, you know, and they have to listen and all of those kinds of things. So they regrouped, and then they left. And that was it. Like, my dad was coming down the hill, and he just sees all these people like leaving. He's like, what the hell happened? And I said, well, you know, they were all here. I didn't know what they were gonna do, but they were gonna put the fire out, and he said, oh, well, I called the reinforcements already, called your aunties and everybody to come down, you know, because we were gonna actually just do his feast, and we expected 300 people there was 600 people. They all came, like, and I was just like, this is from like just me and Dad, like being there, to like 600 people, like, it was like, whoa, like it's just, because the ceremony and for Jeffrey and for the individuals and showing up, filling the seats, and just by going and bringing food, and you know, I like to delegate tasks, so I was like, okay, bring the bannock, like bring the food, bring the water, and so then next thing you know, there's like 600 people coming, and they're all bringing food for everybody, and they're helping out, and we have a sacred fire, and we have, you know, firewood, and then next thing you know, we have a concert going on, and then we have our homes that we created to stop the pipeline. It was like, it was just in that order, you know, it was like, because it was like, we had to get the permission from the elders before we could do anything, and I was like, I was working 3 years to get the elders to say, yeah, you guys could stop the pipeline. 3 years it took us to doing that, and it was one person named Roxanne who came in and said, I just want to let everyone know that it is affecting, the pipeline will affect your niece and nephew down here, and that's what it was. Like, the elders said, no, we can't allow it, so we're gonna say no to it. And so they said, yeah, have a camp. And so we started that day, like, literally that day. We had a feast and a concert, and Jeffrey was done, like, his fasting and everything was all through ceremony, and then after that was every other ceremony was that, you know, we had the salmon feast, the canoe journey, and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm still at. So if you can't find me on the front lines or at home or wherever, I'm still within ceremony and, you know, traveling around and still raising awareness for, you know, clean water and doing the work that has to be done. And now I have grandkids, so that's that part of that reciprocation and bringing life into that, and making sure that they don't have to go through what we're going through right now, and therefore the future is for them. And so keep on doing what we need to do to, you know, safeguard that the children don't have to go to jail, that the children don't have to think about clean water, that the children could just be living, you know. So I just want to bring that much about, and I know it was a lot to think about, and but yeah, thank you guys all. It's been really great to even just get to know everyone individually, and just hang out and come and, you know, recharge and regroup and go back in. And that's literally what we do, is like artisans, we see beautiful colors and pictures and see everything going, and it's like it'll keep going from there. So I just wanted to say that much, and thank you guys, and hands up to Heather and the crew for the food and everything. It's like the space, and, you know, the donations, like literally everything. It goes down to, you know, even the food, and, you know, the nettles and the deer meat and the salmon and everything that's been prepared in a really good way. And so yes, it's all, like I said, that's how it all comes about, right? So just saying, Cooksham, thank you guys. If I forgot anything, just, you know, come and talk to me, I'll be around. But Cooksham.
Catwa ala insna kunkwa Spadger Jack and Squatchy Jack, Hoiston, Michigan, Secwepemc. Hello friends and relatives, my name is Badger. I come from Hoiston territory in Secwepemc Nation. I come from the land of the smiling people. There's many names for all the different beautiful places in the territory I come from. One of them is the land of plenty, where the two waters meet. Where I come from specifically is the village. It's called Kwitsel. It's Hawthorne Flats. I live just below my ancestral village, which is something that I don't know if many of you know is not very common. Like it's been mentioned, we're severely displaced all the time. And even with the mention of residential school, most of our people went to the Kamloops Indian Residential School. I'm a first generation out of residential school. I don't want to shine light on anybody's age here, but I know there is a severe difference between some of us who are first generation out of residential school. Both of my parents went, and yeah, it is a big part of, I feel like it is a big part of what I do and how I do things and reclaim myself as a Ochomiuch. I'm non-binary, I'm trans-mask, very proud, Indigenous queer. Yeah, again, being first generation out of residential school and knowing that the repercussions that they wanted us to feel, the fear that they wanted to instill in us. I've heard my own mom screaming at a cop. They're not instilling fear in us anymore, and that is so true. And I feel that I feel a lot of honor and pride in being able to do so much of what I've done over the years with my family, because I know it is a real struggle of doing the work, is trying to stay connected intergenerationally. And because, yeah, this is my mother. Her name's Christine Jack. She's the main caretaker of Ulush. It means a gathering place. It's a place where we gathered with our relatives, our neighboring nations. Even with the Tsilkoteen that we very much battled with. It's a pretty strong, important place. That's how I feel about that place. I'm like, wow, we really gathered with them there. We must have had quite the conversations. They're a really important trade, because, yeah, there's just so much about carrying on in our culture, and that doesn't come with language that translates. There's something that I was very gifted and blessed being able to grow up with so much of my culture. And I find doing this work, it can be really hard to connect with all of our allies from so many different places, like whether they're settlers or not. Like traveling around to different places and having to have been taught some spiritual knowledge has really enabled me to, I feel like, move differently when I go to different places. I feel that opening of the space. That's, it's because I just think about the way that our culture, yeah, doesn't translate. It's not like it's been called a welcoming, because we are welcoming when we're doing things, but like what we're doing spiritually is really sacred way of opening and acknowledging a space. And especially when we come to cities and occupied places like Lillooet, the town that's close to me, that is another gathering place. Most of the places that we're going to gather in Lillooet are probably close to a burial. So it is really significant in the way that we acknowledge how we arrive. I feel like there's so much of that I realize when I'm listening to everyone self-talk over the years that I haven't had to struggle with some things as much. You know, I can confirm those things. And I also know that I've faced many hardships from such a young time of just being who I am. And being, not only being who I am, but being proud. Because that is something, again, going back to being two-spirit. I don't have a uqamiuch to share with you of how we were addressed by, how I was addressed by my own people. Because that was something that was hidden because of the fear of how we were being treated. So it is a lot, like intergenerationally, like things happen really fast in some places, and some places are happening, you know, at a different pace. So like understanding the responsibility and power and an influence, you know, understand like when we're acknowledging people who come to help us, we're not only acknowledging you coming as an individual, but the loved ones that you walk away from to come and be with us. You know, I realized hearing people acknowledge the coming and going of that is so much bigger than the word welcoming can hold. So there's so much about being open to understanding that it's going to take so much work to really have a kind of impact on what we're doing. Because social media and all of that technology can take things away from the value of being a witness. That was one of the first teachings that my grandpa gave me. It's really important to be a witness. To be able to understand when you're being biased, or to be able to understand when you can't help it. You want to be neutral, but you can't help it. You know, look at that. What kind of a witness are you being? My people didn't write our language. We have no written form of our language. So our oral traditions and our oral history was so important. Each person knew so much, but we didn't expect each person to know everything. You know, so just like understanding the value of how you're receiving, not only what you're hearing, but how you're receiving what we're saying. Like, even within our language, we didn't have complex words like English that make things all fucked up. You know, I've heard that from so many people. Some people have a hard time, like, oh, don't swear. I'm like, I'm speaking English. It feels like I'm swearing to my spirit right now. But yeah, we didn't have complex words. A big part of who we were was our ability to express ourselves. So the best thing that so many people can do when they come and witness and listen, you know, is like sharing with other people. Not a photo, not a quote, maybe not even something that you write down. Maybe like share it with 5 or so people. Because believe me, you probably won't even need to write it down. That was something that my grandparents taught me about. I've always struggled with this. And being recorded. Because sometimes it can enable our brain to say we can forget something. And I've heard many generations speak more on that and not talk about that in short. Because so much of what we're doing is healing. Like there is so much that we're addressing and asserting ourselves, and we're also celebrating and healing. So sometimes I can feel that like mercy and grace of like, I understand recording it in certain ways because I want to be able to put it down. Because because a lot of our people would carry or wear certain things that we'd be able to recognize, oh, when I wore that one thing the last time, you know, like when you see it, oh, it brings up that feeling. You know, we use certain tools, so you would choose to not wear that thing and take care of yourself. You would be able to put it down. So there's just ways that our people have always been wanting to stay connected to who we are, and also to not let certain things change us and how beautiful and kind we are. Because the kindness of our people has been taken advantage of greatly. Like, you could look at the different definitions of what we would call the settlers coming into different places. You know, down in the Lakota Territory, settlers are called fat takers. You know, there's a story behind that. I'm not going to share, it's not my story to share, but it speaks very directly without much, going into what it means. But for us, it meant good friend. Originally meant good friend when we would say Shema. You know, growing up as first generation out of residential school, I did not know that that's what it meant. Because hearing all of the ones who went to residential school and all of the survivors, they'd say, oh, Shema. They'd say it and it's like, oh. And I had no idea. I share some of those things because as strong and as cut we can be and we are. Like even me as a Badger, most people have certain perceptions of me, you know. People are scared of Badgers. You know, they're sort of fierce, they're nasty, and it's like, oh my God, have you ever seen a freaking Badger play? Have you ever seen a Badger just being so cuddly and loving? We want harmony. Any little disturbance, that's... Yeah, I don't know, I guess I share that because I do love that part of us. You know? And I share the part about being mindful of taking advantage of the kindness of our people. Just because you're around somebody who's willing to share, you know, and who might answer some of your questions, one or two, just maybe stop at one or two. Our time and our energy is really valuable. You know, it takes a lot to replenish and value ourselves, honestly. There's so much that we're always forced to say, hey, I matter. You know, it is a lot. You know, I'm so much of what's fighting to be heard and to be loved and cared for. You know, and I just feel like, understanding your value in oneself is something that has come to mind, because when I think of certain experiences that have helped me, listening to our Native women and our Indigenous queers take up the space that they are rightfully entitled to, and to also say my time, not only that space is valuable, but my time is valuable. And that's something that I'll just never forget, seeing and witnessing somebody say, hey, I know we all have so much to share. We all are very valuable as Okamio. And also my time is valuable. And I remember that very strongly. So I really appreciate and value all of your time and the effort that it takes to show up. And I just want to thank you for listening. And also, just like what was said, I know there's so much that I could say. You know, when our people have done so much and are doing so much, like we could sit here for days. Because it's that important, and we really would. We would sit here for days.
2 more days, okay, gathering everything.
So thank you for taking the time to listen to our mildly condensed versions. Yeah, until next time, thank you so much. Sean.
Badger, thanks for reminding me that we would forget something. 2 things. I have May 22nd in the Federal Court of Canada, and I can give Heather the exact information. I need public interest and public safety of the public dollar, and your support coming to the courts if you can, and sit in the galley and listen to me argue over Aboriginal and treaty rights. And yeah, I wanted to say that. I believe it's the 22nd of May, and it's in person. Whereas they've been doing these, the Skype or whatever you want to call it, and I say, do I have to turn the camera on? No. Okay, well, I'm not turning the camera on. Now they're calling me to the court, so in person. And I'm okay with that. They're trying to kick me out, like I said. I do have some records with me if anyone wants to see some of those for the sake of looking. They're open. I'm looking to become a class, like I said, because there's more than 20 people from the same reserve that have had similar issues as my person. And the second thing, what the hell was it? Campbell Scott is the name of a motherfucker who lived in the late 1880s. And he wrote the policy, kill an Indian. And as Badger mentioned about being a witness from some of the teachings I have taken on is you're asked to witness and then share the information with people in your family, cousins, sisters and brothers, mums, dads, aunties, uncles. Talk about what you learned today. You're asked to witness, to bring alive some of the things that you heard today and carry on that way, in a good way and in a factual way. No making anything up. It is true I called the federal court judge a white trash bitch. That is a fact. But back to Duncan Campbell Scott. He wrote kill an Indian, and that policy is still on the books. And when Miranda mentioned our missing, this policy is what drives each legislator, each police person, each governing agent. And that could be medically, dentally, educationally, penally, socially, politically. And it's election time, so-called. All of the people are filling up in the churches and aligning themselves to their votes. And that's what I know about the churches, all the dominations and dominions and whatever you want to call them. And so our role in this little room is to make noise about that policy, bring it alive so that we can kill it. Kill an Indian is a policy that must be changed into protect an Indian. That's what we're all called, people of color. We're Indians, even though we might be Secwepemc or Stalo or people of all walks of life. But kill an Indian affects every single one of us. It's done on the public purse. And that's really important. I haven't said that very often in the public. space, but it could be a phone call to the Member of Parliament. Oh, I know that policy is still alive and I want you to bring it up and have it repealed, taken off the books. So that's what I wanted to say. I again could sit here for hours and days recounting fishing stories or defense over water. And again, thank you, Kwitsel, Tatel, Telsky. The piece on the wall over there is beadwork. Water is sacred. Water is life, protect the sacred. And I did that for my daughter. I just wanted everyone to know that. All of the artwork in here is precious and beautiful. And thank you so much for being here, for listening, supporting Vines, supporting us as speakers, supporting each other's. Discovery Organics is kind enough to have gifted food, and Badger made bags out of it. So please, until it's gone, grab a bag of lovely food out there. At the front, out the front on the table. Postai.
Thank you. Everybody give them a round of applause, please. Thank you so much. We have two little film pieces that reference more about what was talked about, so you can grab drinks while it's being set up. But yeah, I'm just going to set a projector up right there, and we're going to watch the premiere of two little films